When I started my blog in 2011, I was told it was too late then, which is really crazy to think about because it's definitely not too late. And it's definitely not too late in 2019 either.
Hey there, I'm Goli Kalkaran, and this is Lessons from a Quitter, where we believe that it's never too late to start over. No matter how much time or money you've spent getting to where you are, if ultimately you are not happy, then it's time to get out. If you're feeling stuck and you feel like there's gotta be more, there's gotta be a way to feel fulfilled and excited about what you do, then this is the podcast for you. Each week, I will sit down with an inspiring guest who quit their professional career in order to forge their own path and create a life that they love. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Lessons from a Quitter. You are in for a treat. I am so happy you are tuning in today because we have the amazing Michelle Schroeder-Gardner on the episode today. And Michelle is going to talk to us all about how she runs a blog that makes over $100,000 a month. Michelle started out her career, going to school, getting her MBA in finance and working as a financial analyst. And she started this blog, Making Sense of Sense, on the side as just a hobby to document her own personal finance journey. She wanted to show the different things that she was doing to try to make some money on the side on the internet. And she quickly learned that she could actually make money from the blog. And that has grown year over year. And what's great about Michelle is that she documents how much she makes. So you can go on her blog and find her expense reports, and it goes all the way back and shows you when she was making, $10,000 a month to $50,000 a month to now over $100,000 a month. And she shows no signs of slowing down. In 2015, Michelle and her husband sold their house and they began traveling full time while she runs this blog on the road. They first traveled by RV and now they're traveling by sailboat. You honestly should follow her on Instagram because her pictures are unreal. I mean, it will make you jealous, but you should still do it. It's pretty incredible. I'm so excited to have her on because I think most people don't realize that you can make such an amazing living from blogging. And we will get all into the state of blogging now and whether, someone can start in 2019. And we'll talk to Michelle all about the lessons that she has learned along the way. Before we do, I just wanted to quickly let you know that we are having our live event next week. If you are in Southern California, I would love to have you at it. It is going to be on August 15th in Irvine, California. Please join us. We're going to have a live recording of the podcast. We're going to have a coaching session. We'll have food, drinks. We'll network. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can find out more about it at quitterclub.com/event. And without further ado, let's jump in and talk to Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to get into everything you're doing. And actually, we typically start back from the beginning, but I'm going to shake it up a little bit. So why don't you tell us what you do now for a living?
Yeah. So I started Making Sense of Sense back in August of 2011. And back then it was all just a side hustle. Well, actually, it wasn't a side hustle. It was just for my personal self. Like I didn't know that blogs could even make money or anything like that. And it all just quickly grew from there. Back then I was writing on my blog that I was trying to find different ways to make money. So I was doing things like taking surveys, mystery shopping, stuff like that. A reader one day told me why don't you try to make money with your blog? And I was already spending 20 to 40 hours a week on Making Sense of Sense. And at that point, I didn't really think about it. I didn't really think I could make money with Making Sense of Sense. And shortly after, a blogging friend actually connected me with an advertiser. And that's how I made my first $100 through Making Sense of Sense. And that was about 6 months in. So, I was working hundreds of hours and had only earned $100 at that whole entire time. It was definitely a slow process in the beginning, but after that, it quickly grew. I left my day job as a financial analyst to blog full time in September of 2013. And I've been blogging full time ever since.
Oh my goodness. So good. There's so much I want to get into. So kind of going back to your job as a financial analyst. So you got your finance MBA. And what did you think, when you were in school and you were coming out, what did you want to be doing or what did you think you would be doing?
I definitely wanted to work in corporate environment. I didn't really have any major goals. I just thought I'd go to college, get a job after college, and pretty much just work for a company for the rest of my life. I definitely had no goals of working for myself.
Oh, interesting. So you didn't have like the entrepreneurial spirit that a lot of people like, talk about from like when they were a kid. Are you okay being an employee?
Yeah, I never had like I just never really thought about it.
Yeah. So what led you to even start wanting to do a blog as a fun side hobby when obviously you're working and you're busy and most people don't have the time to put things out there?
Yeah, so I was actually reading Cosmo magazine one day, and in it they were featuring a personal finance website called Dailyworth, and I learned about personal finance by reading that feature in the magazine. And so I started reading Dailyworth, and I started reading the comments on Dailyworth, and I noticed that a lot of them were from other personal finance bloggers and other people who were enthusiastic about the personal finance community. So I just decided to start my own blog then. It was completely anonymous. I didn't really have any goals for it. It was just for myself and for me to talk about me paying off my student loans, living paycheck to paycheck and stuff like that.
Interesting. It's so funny because you have a finance MBA and we've had a couple of other guests that have been on to talk about personal finance. And it's always just so surprising how little we're taught about it because like you clearly studied you studied finance, not personal finance, but to not really have any introduction until you stumble upon it in a magazine or on blogs, it just shows like how little we're taught about our own financial situation.
Yeah, definitely. Even though I have a finance MBA and I went to school for like business and stuff like that, almost none of that was related to personal finance. So it's definitely, I've just learned about everything as I've gone.
Was it because like you were starting to get interested in kind of the process of paying off loans and stuff that you wanted to share that anonymously? Like what was the drive in wanting to share that?
I was mainly just interested in the personal finance community. I loved how everyone was just openly talking about everything. Everyone was super friendly and the community was just a lot of fun.
Okay. So then what was that road? I know you posted on your blog that you paid off your student loans, I think like $38,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read that you paid it off in like 7 months. So how did you start going about doing that?
Yeah, so I paid off around $38,000 to $40,000 in 7 months. It actually all just started because I was reading other personal finance websites and everyone was saying like, oh, I paid off $100,000 in a year, or I paid off $50,000 in a year and stuff like that. So I figured if other people could do it, I could probably do it as well. So I just put it out there like on my blog that I was making a crazy goal for myself. My goal is actually to pay off $40,000 in 6 months. I'm definitely not upset that it was a month late because it's still super fast.
Right.
I thought if I just put it out there, then I would kind of be forced to do it because I was telling like everyone and in the public what my goal was.
Yeah.
So, that was very motivating to do that. And it was very motivating just to do it in a short amount of time because with every large amount or even small amount that I put towards my debt, I could see that my debt was shrinking.
And what was like your strategy? Was it just using a larger portion of your paycheck or were you trying to like make additional side income or how are you tackling that in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, so there were numerous things I did. The main thing that I did that really helped was finding ways to make extra money. I did a ton of different things. I was selling items on eBay, selling items on Craigslist, taking surveys online, answering like market research surveys on the phone, mystery shopping. I was managing social media for websites, and that was all on top of my day job as a financial analyst.
How are you doing that? Like, I think you were saying that you're working hundreds of hours. So was it just like waking up early and staying up late and doing all this stuff on your downtime?
Yeah, so there was a lot of different ways that I made it work. The main way was that I made sure that most of my side hustles were flexible. So I didn't have like a strict schedule for anything, whether it was mystery shopping, answering surveys, selling items online, stuff like that. There was like no strict, I had to be somewhere from like 6 to 10 p.m. after work or something like that.
Right.
So having a flexible schedule really helped because I could work in the morning before I went to work. I could work my lunch break. I could work after work. Sometimes I even took vacation days from work to side hustle as well.
I love this. We had Kevin on the show from the Financial Panther, and he was talking about the side gig stuff that he did. And I just love this example because I know our audience are people that typically are unhappy in their careers. And a lot of people that I hear from, they say that their number one reason they're stuck is finances. And I'm not saying it's an excuse. I know finances are a big deal, but there are now so many ways to make money online in just little ways. But I think a lot of times we chalk it up to like, I don't have time or that's not that much or whatnot. But it's funny how, when you see somebody that's doing it, and there are so many people, like you were saying, online showing how they did it and how they did 100,000 in a year or whatever amount of time. And it's like, there are ways to do this stuff, to pay down debt, to get yourself out of that financial burden that you're under.
Yeah. I know that like some debt and some financial situations are much harder, such as related to like medical situations and stuff like that. But I do think a lot of it is mindset as well. Like a lot of people, I do hear that I don't have time to side hustle. I don't have time to learn how to budget and stuff like that. But I always like to point out that the average person watches around 30 to 35 hours of TV a week. And the average person also spends like 10 to 20 hours a week or even more on social media as well. So, I mean, that's more than a full-time job right there that people could be using towards learning how to side hustle, starting a side business, getting a part-time job, learning how to budget, learning how to invest and stuff like that.
I totally agree. And I think that a lot of times when you're just like scrolling or you're thinking about something, let's say you're on social media, even if you're following these people, a lot of times like it becomes really overwhelming. But when you start chunking it down and have a goal and you're only putting an hour and you have an hour that you can find in your day, it becomes so much more manageable. It's just a matter of kind of making that decision to go down that path.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Okay, so you're doing all these side hustles, you're paying off your loan and you're writing this blog. But, you know, at the time you were saying that, and on your blog, you talk about how sometimes this was like 100-hour weeks or more. And you mentioned that you didn't really even think that you were going to make money off this, you know, even like 6 months in. I mean, was there a time when you were kind of thinking like, why am I like taking the time to write these blogs? Why am I putting this out there if it's not going to have any return?
Well, since I didn't start making Sense of Sense with any intention of making money online, I do think that definitely helped me because I didn't really care about the $100. I mean, I was working full time already. I wasn't side hustling. I didn't really have any like huge financial goals. So, I mean, making money with my blog just wasn't even on my mind. But after I made that first $100, it actually grew very quickly from there. I want to say about 6 months after that, I started to make around $1,000 a month from my blog. And then around 2 years after that, I was making around $5,000 to $10,000 a month from my blog. So, I mean, it quickly grew from that first $100.
And how are you typically making money from your blog?
Do you mean back then or now?
Back then, when you first started, what were you mostly doing?
Yeah, so back then I was mainly earning money through sponsored posts on my blog. I also did a lot of like social media and blog management as well. So, I mean, it's completely different than what I'm doing now. Today, I mainly earn an income through affiliate marketing, courses. Sponsored partnerships are definitely still in play when it comes to blog monetization for making Sense of Sense. But today I do no freelancing. Like I don't do any social media management. I don't write for any other blogs and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. And when you say affiliate marketing, just because I don't know if the audience knows what that is, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so affiliate marketing is, so if I wanted to promote a product on my blog, say like the Instapot or SodaStream or something like that, if I write a review about it or if there's like a blog post related to it and a reader clicks on my link, I will earn a commission through it. So it's like super easy, very passive. It could be on my blog, on social media, or on my email list. It's definitely my favorite way to earn money blogging.
Yeah. When you offer a course, right, teaching people how to earn affiliate marketing money.
Yeah, my course is called Making Sense of Affiliate Marketing. There are over 5,000 students currently in it.
That's incredible. At what point were you realizing like, hey, I could leave my day job? Or when were you starting to consider going full time as a blogger?
After I paid off, or no, it was while I was paying off my student loan debt, I realized that soon it would be quickly paid off and I wouldn't have like this huge financial burden over my head anymore. And I realized how much I loved blogging and how much I really hated my day job as well. So all of those things put together made me realize that I could leave my day job and I was making plenty to cover all of my bills. So, I mean, it just made financial sense, even though I was super afraid to leave my day job as well. Back then in 2013, I was writing a lot of blog posts about how I was afraid to make the leap. And it's really funny to think back about that now because it was definitely like the best decision I've ever made.
Right. Well, I love that. I want to get into that a little bit because a lot of what I hear and a lot of what people contact me with is just this overarching fear of just making the quote unquote wrong decision or what if they regret it and whatnot. So can you go a little bit in depth about what you were feeling and how you kind of pushed past that? Like what was in place that kind of helped you make that decision to finally leave?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the things that I was afraid of when it came to leaving my day job to blog full time include like leaving the benefits behind. Like I had really good health insurance. I had a really good retirement plan. I was earning like a stable income. Like I knew how much I was going to get paid every 2 weeks and every month, and I knew exactly when that would happen. So leaving my day job to blog full time, of course, had a lot of unknowns, such as I didn't really know how much money I was going to make each month. I didn't really know like how I was going to grow or if I was going to grow or how long blogging was going to be around. So, I mean, there was a lot of what ifs, especially since I went to school for like finance and business and stuff like that. Like I have all these college degrees and I was afraid to leave all of that behind to blog full time.
What got you over that fear to finally say like, I'm going to give it a shot?
Just thinking about all the like positives of blogging full time. I was thinking about having a flexible schedule, being able to travel full time, being my own boss, and all those positives definitely made me realize that I would love to blog full time.
Yeah. Did you have anybody? I mean, I think you did it the perfect way. Obviously, you were already making money. And so there was already a path. And obviously, everything is unknown. Nobody knows what the future is going to hold for them. But I do think it's not like you're making the jump and you have no idea how it's going to work out. But with it still, because you had these degrees, because you spent the time, did you have anybody like in your family, friends, voice their concerns for you quitting your job to go do this thing that may not be stable?
Yeah, definitely. We had a lot of people tell us like we were making a mistake. People who, I mean, of course, a lot of people these days still don't really know what a blogger is or that you can even make money. There's just so many unknowns. And a lot of people definitely thought like I was having like a mini crisis.
I'm glad that you pushed past that. You started blogging, you said what, in 2013 full time?
Yes, September of 2013.
And by that point, though, when you left, I mean, even though it wasn't like, it's not like every month was the same. I mean, you had pretty much replaced your income, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. You had all of your expenses covered when you were going to leave. And your blog has just grown. I know you publish your income reports monthly where you talk about how much you made that month. And I think your recent one, you talk about how you make, I don't know, over $100,000 a month from your blog. Is that right? That's amazing.
Yes. Thanks.
I mean, that's incredible. This is what I love showcasing on the podcast. Why I wanted the podcast is because I think a lot of times when we are stuck in fear about all the ways that you can fail, you don't really look at like the opportunity or how good it could be. And I realize that you're probably an outlier. I don't know how many bloggers there are that are making millions of dollars a year, but to have not taken that, chance and possibly foregone having $100,000 a month or making millions of dollars a year while you're doing the things you love and traveling is such a shame. And I think so many people get stuck in that fear and don't really realize how great it can actually be.
Yeah, definitely. I hear from a lot of people saying that they're afraid to pursue their passion. I'm afraid to do the things that they want and stuff like that. And it's not always just about becoming a blogger. It's just like any job that they're interested in. They're afraid to take that leap.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, obviously we're sort of conditioned like that. We're programmed to like stay the stable course. And it's just very cool to see all these people that are now doing, following their passions and making it a huge success to kind of pave the way and show people what's possible. I love that. And so you were saying that so what does blogging mean now? Like how much are you working? How often do you post? What does your typical kind of week look like?
Yeah, so my typical week varies. Back when I started making Sense of Sense, when I had like no idea what a blog was and I had no idea what I was doing, I was actually writing a ton. I was writing like 5 to 7 times a week. Some days I even had like 2 blog posts a day. I mean, they weren't like huge blog posts. Sometimes they were just a few hundred words long. But today things have like really changed. Now I'm writing like 1 to 2 to maybe 3 times a week, but usually just 1 to 2 times a week. I'm working around amount of hours I work really depends. Sometimes it might be like 10 hours a week and other weeks it might be like 100 hours. So, I mean, it really depends on what my goals are for that week and if I'm ahead in work or behind in work.
Well, I appreciate you saying that too, though, because I know that sometimes people like to give off like an impression that there is like these freelancing lifestyles where they're only working a couple hours a week. And I don't know how realistic a lot of that is. I think that there are a lot of times especially when you're building something, that there are very long weeks. And I think it's good to talk about. And so I appreciate you talking about the fact that there are still 100-hour work weeks. And sometimes I know with freelancing, it can actually be harder because there's no start or stop times. Like you can constantly be working at night and wake up earlier on weekends. I see that a lot where people end up, you want to work less and it ends up taking up more of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the episode in 1 second. But if you're in the Southern California area on August 15th, I want you to join us for our first ever live event. It is going to be awesome. We're going to do a live recording with 4 of our incredible past guests, including Sheena Chang, Pai Jirsa, Lori Rowan, and Sarah Rezvanpur Rose. We're going to have a coaching session from Elena Deutsch. We're going to have food and drinks and networking, and you get to meet me, which could be a good or bad thing. It's going to be pretty fun, and I would love to see you all there. I would love to meet you all. So join us. You can go to quitterclub.com/event to buy your tickets. I hope to see you all there. And with that, let's jump back into the episode. You are also doing something really cool because you're currently, you guys sold your house and you first went on an RV tour of the States and now you're sailing around the world. Can you tell us a little bit about how that all started and what you're doing now?
Yeah, back in 2014, around a year after I started blogging full time, we decided to put our house on the market and sell it, and we moved over to Colorado. And a few months in living in Colorado, we decided to get an RV. And it wasn't to live in full time. It was just to travel in. So we were going to go back home, travel around out west in it, stuff like that, week-long trips, maybe a couple of weeks. And then right after we moved in, we realized how much we loved it. So we decided to get rid of the house we were in and move into the RV full-time. It just quickly grew from there. We ended up upgrading into a bigger RV because that RV wasn't suitable for full-time living for us at least. Mm-hmm. So we moved into a bigger RV, did that for a little bit. And around a little over a year ago, we decided to start boating full-time, and we moved into our sailboat that we're currently in.
Had you guys done sailing before? Were you guys sailors, or did you learn this in order to start sailing around the world?
My husband had more experience, and I just had a little bit, some charter experience.
It's so impressive. And when you say all this stuff, you keep talking about we. So does your husband, does he have his own job? Does he work on the blog with you? How does that work?
Works on the blog and the boat, yeah.
Oh, very cool. And so How long have you guys been sailing now?
It's been about a little over a year, about 13 months now.
Oh my God. And how has that been?
It's been a ton of fun. The first few months were definitely a learning experience, but everything is really enjoyable now.
That's awesome. And so how do you keep the blog up if you're sailing?
Internet's actually, I found to be a lot better outside of the U.S. I feel like in the U.S. it's so hard to find unlimited hotspots and stuff like that. So we actually just spent a few months in the Bahamas, and the internet was 100 times better, surprisingly.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, so you haven't really had an issue. Do you tend to have a padding of, do you have stuff scheduled out for months in advance so that if you run into issues, or is it you just don't expect to have issues?
Yes, I always try to be scheduled far out in advance to prepare for anything like that.
Oh, very cool. One of the other questions I had is, obviously the reason you're making so much money is because you have a ton of people coming to your website. And so you can make money on affiliate marketing and stuff. But what do you typically focus on in order to get eyes on your blog? I know that you're not, like the people that are super active on social media where it's 10 posts a week and stuff. It seems like it's more of just a personal thing to be on social media. So how do you get people to your blog?
So there's a few different things I do. I actually get a surprisingly good amount of traffic from Google and SEO, even though I do almost no SEO, which is really funny. So, it just goes to show you that you don't need to be crazy about SEO to get traffic from it. Then I also get a good amount of traffic from Pinterest and Facebook. Oh. Pinterest is great. I've been on it for a really long time, but even if you're new, you definitely don't need to. A lot of people think I can't be on Pinterest because I joined too late or whatever. But no, I know plenty of people who have recently joined Pinterest and are doing really, really well on it. And then I do really well on Facebook too. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook community group, a good amount of traffic from those as well. And then I also have an email list. If you don't have an email list, I definitely recommend starting one because I get a lot of traffic from there. And definitely a lot of really loyal readers read my blog posts through my email list.
And do you typically repurpose the blogs that you write on your blog? You just send out to your email list, or do you do specific additional emails to your list?
My email list is really simple. I usually just send them the blog post. Okay. I might add a few extra paragraphs and ask them to head over to the blog post to read the full thing. Because of course, no one wants to read 3,000 words in an email. Usually it's just telling people hey, there's a new blog post that's live. So it's super simple.
And you just talked about the Pinterest thing, but one of the things that, I constantly run into is people saying oh, it's too late. It's too late to start a blog. It's too late to make money off Instagram or whatever the limiting belief is. And since you teach people also about blogging, what are your thoughts about somebody that wants to just start brand new in 2019? Is it too late?
Yeah, so I hear that all the time. It's definitely not too late to start in 2019. In fact, when I started my blog in 2011, I was told it was too late then, which is really crazy to think about because it's definitely not too late. And it's definitely not too too late in 2019 either. I think companies and advertisers and brands are just now starting to realize the value in bloggers and online influencers, such as people on Instagram and Facebook, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I definitely think there is a lot of growth because bloggers are only recently starting to get a ton of advertising deals. And I expect that to grow well into the future because I like to think about it in 5 to 10 years ago. I feel like a lot of people would look at celebrities and stuff before they bought stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's like not the case anymore at all. Like people want to see what actual real life people are buying and using these days.
Right.
Especially like with a good example would be with a financial blog. I'm not going to look at like, I don't even know like what celebrity. Like I wouldn't look at a celebrity to see what financial app they're using. I mean, that just wouldn't make a ton of sense. I want to see what the average person is using and how they're using it in their daily life.
Absolutely. And what advice, though, would you give to somebody that wants to start a blog in terms of like how much time they should probably dedicate to sticking with it? I think a lot of times, a lot of people may start with a lot of excitement and then within like 2 months realize that it's a ton of work and then not do it. And I think there needs to be a certain amount of time that if you're going to get into it, like you should give yourself a goal of like, I'm going to do it for, I don't know, do you think a year, 2 years? Like how long do you think before you can grow a blog to something that you can make a good living off of?
Yeah, so I've always heard the stat that the average new blogger quits 6 months in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think if you could go like just a little bit longer than 6 months, try to stick it out for like 8 months or even a year. I definitely think that's super helpful because 6 months in is not enough to see if you are going to be successful with blogging. 6 months in isn't enough to see if you can build an email list or grow on Pinterest or anything like that because blogging is not a get rich quick scheme. Like I always hear that all the time. You should be able to make money like in the first day or in the first month. Yes, there are people that have in the past who have made money super quickly, but that's not going to be the average person.
Right.
So you need to stick it out for a lot longer.
I couldn't agree more. And so what else is on the horizon for you? Are you just keeping up with the blog and sailing? Do you have anything exciting coming up?
When we were in the Bahamas, I took a lot of that off in order to focus on sailing, boating, and being in the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping to like catch up on a lot of work this month and this summer because right now I'm like way behind.
Well, that sounds awesome. Where can people find you if they want to read more about your journey and learn more about blogging?
Yeah, so the best way would be to go to makingsenseofsense.com. That's like my personal finance, travel, lifestyle blog where I talk about pretty much anything. And then if you want to follow my travels, definitely go to Instagram.com/Michelle Schroeder. And that's like all of my travel pictures. I just post about what's going on in my life.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful, beautiful pictures of her sailing trip if you want to be jealous about what she's doing. Definitely follow her there. I will link to all those in the show notes. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. This has been super insightful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You guys, how amazing is Michelle's story? So inspiring. Well, here are my 3 takeaways. 1, it's not too late to start. Honestly, if that's what's coming up for you, it's an excuse. People told her it was too late in 2011. Can you imagine if she listened? The internet is literally a baby. It just started. It is just getting warmed up. So do not stop because you think that it's too late to start something. 2, but you got to stick with it. Any side hustle, any business, any project that you're doing, I would say give yourself at least a year. When you start, tell yourself you're going to stick with it for at least 1 year. We all know that get-rich-quick schemes don't work. So stop trying to make that happen. Pick something that you love, that you want to work on, and stick with it for a substantial period of time. And 3, you have the time. We like to use time as an excuse, but think about how much time you waste binge-watching shows or scrolling through Instagram. Start prioritizing your time. Schedule in time for your side hustle or for brainstorming or whatever it is that you want to do and make it happen. I hope you guys were inspired by this episode, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. I can't tell you how much it means to me. If you liked the podcast, please rate and review us on iTunes. It'll help other people find the show. If you want to connect or reach out, follow along on Instagram and Facebook at Lessons from a Quitter and on Twitter at Quitter Podcast. I would love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.